Hey everyone, Stiochemistry here. So we have a question on Stiochemistry. Okay. So the question is saying, given the following compounds, so being given these compounds, okay. So you have your potassium carbonate, okay. Also your sodium carbonate, your potassium chloride, your sodium chloride, and your calcium carbonate there. Okay. Then they are saying write molecular equation for the reaction between solution of calcium chloride and your potassium carbonate. So we are writing a molecular equation for calcium chloride and potassium carbonate there. Okay, so let's do our first part. Okay, so you have the calcium chloride, which is in aqueous solution. Okay, so this guy is in aqueous solution. Okay, reacting with your potassium chloride, uh, potassium carbonate. Okay, this guy is also in aqueous solution. Okay, so what are you going to get? Okay, so here you simply displace these two metals. Okay, so your potassium will come here, then your calcium will mix with the calcium carbonate there. Will mix with the carbonate to form calcium carbonate. Okay, so you have the calcium carbonate. Okay, so calcium has a valence of 2, also carbonate has a valence of 2, so nothing will change. So you end up having the calcium carbonate, which is a solid. Okay, then plus, so this potassium has now replaced your calcium there where there's chloride. Okay, so you have the potassium chloride. So potassium is also in a group, is having a valence of 1, also calcium having chloride there has a valence of 1, so nothing will change there. Okay, so this guy is also in aqueous solution. Okay, so here we can balance this equation. So we balance equation by checking the atoms if they are equal in the reactants and in the products. Okay, so you check the calcium. So you have one calcium atom on the other side. It's balanced. We go to the chlorine. Okay, so you have two chlorine ion atoms there. Then we have one chlorine atom on the products. Okay, so you can simply put a 2 there to balance the chlorine atoms. Okay, then you can also check for potassium. You can see you have two potassium atoms in the reactants, same with the products there after putting a 2. Okay, the carbon is also balanced, one carbon, and the oxygen are also balanced. So this is our molecular equation. Okay, so let's go to part B. So let's go to part B. So part B is saying write the ionic equation for the reaction between the solution of your calcium chloride and uh, uh, potassium carbonate. Okay, so this reaction we have been asked to write the ionic equation. So for the ionic equation, we are going to simply show the dissociation of this reaction. Okay, so here we are going to be dissociating ions in aqueous solutions only. Okay, so those ones in solid, you are not going to tamper with them. You only dissociate ions in aqueous solution. Okay, so let's start dissociating. Start from here. Okay, so you have your calcium. Okay, so I'll dissociate this calcium chloride into my calcium ions. Okay, which is 2 plus aqueous solution plus my 2 chloride ion. Okay, which is minus also in aqueous solution. Okay, then plus I go to this one, which is potassium carbonate. Okay, I dissociate my potassium ion. Okay, so I have plus in aqueous solution. Okay, plus my carbonate ion there. Okay, so I can dissociate my carbonate ion CO3 with 2 minus there. Okay, this is also in aqueous solution. Okay, then we are only dissociating those in aqueous solution. For solids, we are leaving them. Okay, so we are not going to tamper on solids. So you leave this calcium carbonate the way it is. So I have my calcium carbonate. I'll leave it, I won't tamper with it. Okay, then I dissociate the other guy who is also in aqua solution. So we can dissociate this guy. So I have 2 potassium. So plus, okay, I have 2 chloride ions. Okay, so these guys are both in aqueous state. Okay, so this is my ionic equation for this reaction. Okay, then part C is saying what is meant by the term spectator ion. So what are spectator ions? Okay, so spectator ions are simply ions that are present in the reaction mixture that does not practically get involved in the chemical change. Okay, so those ions that will not participate in a chemical change, we call them spectator ions. Okay, so you find most of the time spectator ions, after you dissociate your reaction like this, you will notice that those ions, they will remain unchanged, both in the reactants and in the product they are going to be found, they will remain unchanged. Okay, so those you simply call them spectator ions. Okay, then part D say write down the spectator ion for this reaction. So define what spectator ions. So those ions which do not take part in the chemical change. Okay, and they are going to be found in both the product and the reactants when you write your ionic equation. Okay, so here you can see here you have these chlorine ions. Okay, so the chloride ions, they are both in the reactant. So this one here, the chloride ion. So this chloride ion. So you can see that the chloride ion is a spectator ion there because it's both in the reactant and in the product, and it has remained unchanged. Okay, it doesn't change. Okay, it's still the same. Okay, the other spectator ion you have here. Okay, so you can say, and you can see potassium here. So it's there in the reactant and also in the product, has remained unchanged there. So it's also another spectator ion. So these are the 2 spectator ions you have in that reaction. Okay. Then part E is saying write down the net ionic equation for the reaction between your solution of calcium chloride and potassium carbonate there. Okay, so from here, simply when you are getting the net equation, so the net ionic equation, we simply cancel spectator ions. Okay, so here we are going to cancel these spectator ions. So we cancel our chloride there. Also in the products, we cancel it. Same with the potassium ion. Also in the product, we cancel it. Okay, so we write whatever has remained. So you can see here we've remained with the calcium ions. Okay, aqueous. Okay, plus your bicarbonate. Okay, so your carbonate ions, okay, in aqueous. Then this is giving us in the product you have in calcium carbonate. Okay, as a solid. So this is the net ionic equation for this particular reaction. Okay, so we have video solutions for your tutorial sheets and also your other assessments. Okay, so if you want to get access, you simply have to register with us. So how you register with us, you simply open your browser. Okay, so let me open my browser. Okay, so let me open my browser. Okay. Okay, so I open my browser. Yeah. So when you open your browser like that, you simply type, okay, so you type Discrete Learning Institute, okay, so there you have a web for Discrete Learning Institute. You click on it, okay, so once you open that web, you see something like this, okay. So if you are not having an account, you don't have our account, you'll be asked to create an account. Then after creating an account, then you can pay for a course of your choice, okay? Once you pay for a course of your choice, you can open that course, okay? So you open it like that, okay? So you find folders, okay? So let's say for chemistry, you open for chemistry, you find these folders, okay? So you go where it's written general chemistry. So you can go there, okay? So you open a folder for general chemistry, okay? So other folders will appear. So let me just wait for it to load so that see what we are going to get. Okay. Okay. So these folders will appear, okay? So depending on what you want, so you have lessons and tutorials, handwritten summarized notes, you have lab report samples, also past paper quiz and test and exam past papers in these different folders. Also, toy sheets and assessment, okay? So if you want your toy sheet video solution and assessment, you go in that folder written toy sheets and assessment, okay? Then you choose the university. Okay, so let's say I choose UNILAS there. Okay, so I open a folder for UNILAS. I'll find these two folders. So there's first semester and the second semester. So you open the semester you are in. Okay, so I open my first semester there. Okay, so I'll find these folders. So you get the intake you are in. So you can go to July intake. You open there. You find these folders. Okay. So these are simply the toy sheets for this July intake. Okay. So you can open any of this toy sheet. You find the video solution for your toy sheet. Okay. So let's say a toy sheet on periodicity, toy sheet 4B can find all video solution for that sheet in that folder. Okay, so simply register with us. It will help you to prepare for your upcoming exam. Okay, thank you so much for watching the video.